Hello, chess friends, and welcome to Jozarov chess channel, and welcome back to the Goldmoney Asian Rapid Tournament in 2021. We have reached now the third day of the preliminaries. We're now already in the round 11. So in the round 11, really a great game has been played between the two great tacticians, Alireza Firouzja and Levon Aronian. Be prepared. This is simply a different game we haven't seen so far, and we haven't seen so often the Vienna game in top grandmaster level. The Vienna game is this continuation after e4, e5, and then you play knight to c3 with preparations even to play the move f4. So this is simply a different game, I think, because actually it's Alireza that's always trying to spice up things when we watch his games. Sometimes it goes it can be good, sometimes it can be bad, but Alireza is at least trying to play attractive chess. At least he maybe Daniil Dubov, these are two great guys who are always, as I said, trying to spice it up, who are always trying to mix it up a little bit, and that's why we love their games. Be prepared, this is really a sharp tactical game. So here play e4 play by Alireza, we have e5 by Levon Aronian, we have knight to c3, the Vienna game, as we said. f4 is the main preparation. Here Levon Aronian plays the move knight to f6, we have bishop to c4 by Alireza, and now a great opening line here by Levon Aronian, it's the move knight to e4. Of course, if you take knight takes e4, then you get d5, and the game becomes more and more simplified. I think that white has now several problems, and black has now solved all of the position problems in the early stage of the game. So when you're playing as black, I think this is a great line for you. Bishop to d3 can happen. You can maybe take here, bishop takes e4 then, but now f5 is even an opportunity to simply kick away further the bishop. So I think simply that black is strategically winning this game. So that's why after the move knight to e4, here Alireza plays now the great move queen to h5 with threats of knight to queen takes f7. So that's why knight to d6 here played by Alireza. It comes of course with a great defense against the square f7, but also it's a great counterattack against the bishop on c4. So here bishop to b3 played by Alireza. We have bishop to e7, queen takes e5, and now castling here by Levon Aronian. Okay, Alireza has his pawn back, but actually this is so far a great opening line for Levon Aronian. Levon has two pieces out. He still can get with the knight out, and it comes with the tempo. That's actually a great thing, because knight to c6 will kick away further the queen from the center of the board. The problem, I think the only problem that black has here in this continuation is of course the light square bishop, because you cannot develop it with the move d6. You have to play something like a6 in order to develop it. Maybe bishop to b7 or bishop to a6 are opportunities to get with the bishop into the game. So it's not maybe the most pragmatic idea, but it's actually one of the ideas to get somehow your bishops, because you have to develop your pieces in an early stage of the game. So here Alireza plays the move d4, and now we have this move knight to c6. So I see this move comes with the tempo. Here queen to f4 played by Alireza. That's why I always like to watch Alireza's games, because he's staying always with the pieces active on the board. So now the queen is maybe really not on a natural square, but the queen is still dancing a little bit around the black's king here. So at least the queen is somewhere active now in the continuation of the game. So that's why here queen to f4 so far a great move. In the continuation we have now this move knight to a5, chasing a little bit the bishop on the board, bishop to d5, and now knight to e8 with preparations maybe to play c6 and maybe d5, further kick away the bishop from the center of the board. Bishop to f3, great maneuver by Alireza Firouzja. He found now a great way how to activate back the piece. In the continuation we have now bishop to b4. That's a great positional pin here by Levon Aronian, because you cannot prevent anymore this idea bishop takes c3. Even if you try bishop to d2, of course, what white would love this continuation bishop takes c3, then of course bishop takes c3, and you haven't messed up your pawn structure. Still the pawn structure is healthy, but black doesn't have to play of course this move after potential bishop to d2. Knight to c4 could happen, and you see now the bishop is in danger. This is still a dangerous pin, so I think black is here much better. So that's why you cannot prevent anymore this idea bishop takes c3. You will have your pawn structure messed up here. So that's why in the continuation of the game we have d5 played by Alireza Firouzja. We have bishop takes c3, b takes c3, and now finally this move b6. We said that now it's time really to develop your light with bishop here. If you try d6 too early, then of course c6 can happen. Of course This is playable because the d6 pawn will be then a long-term weakness. It can be further attacked, but actually you can also try here to move bishop to a6, maybe sacrificing here the rook after queen to a8. Now white has several problems to develop. Even white has problems to get the knight into the game. Even if you try queen to f3, then of course bishop to b7 happen and you lose simply the tactical battle here around the square g2. So white will have troubles to castle here, so that's why I think taking out the rook is not actually a good choice here for white. So that's why let's go back. After the move here b6, Alireza tried knight to e2. He has of course now the space advantage. That's actually the main advantage of white here, the space advantage with the supported pawn on d5. This pawn on d5 is very annoying, so that's why at least Alireza gets something out of this opening line. In the continuation after knight to e2, we have bishop to a6 played by Levon Aronian, and now castling played by Alireza, and now great move again by Levon Aronian, queen to f6. Of course he wants to simplify the game because what Levon Aronian has gained here is already a weakened pawn structure. You see these are clear targets. The pawn on d5 is a weakness, the pawn on c3 is a weakness, but actually there is a great weakness that black can occupy. It's the weak c4 square. So the main weaknesses in the chess game can be a weak pawn and a weak square. So I think now when something gets on c4, maybe a bishop or a knight, that black could have really powerful control in the center of the board, because also knight to d6 can happen, and with both of these knights I think white has a great black has a great and compact setup here, as I said, in the center of the board. So queen to f6 is a natural idea to simplify the game because the bishops are on the board. White has of course also the advantage of the bishop pair, so that's why after queen to f6, knight to f6, I think that black would solve all of the positional problems. This is now much better continuation for black. So that's why queen to a4 played by Alireza. He doesn't want to trade off the queens. He wants to spice things up. He wants to play a more and more complicated game, and also he's counterattacking here the weak pawn on d7. In the continuation, knight to d6 played by Levon Aronian. Great move again. We have queen to d7, and actually here Alireza Firouzja fell already into sort of a tactical trap because Levon Aronian plays simply rook to e8. Counterattacking here, the knight is now hanging on e2. We have bishop to e3, but now comes this move knight to c4. That's actually a great move because if you move, of course you lose the knight. That's why you have to play bishop to d4. At least it comes with the tempo. But now knight to e5. What to do now? After knight to e5, if you take now queen to c7, you cannot take actually this pawn because you get simply rook to e7. You can maybe take out here the knight, but bishop to e5 leads now into queen to e5. Still the queen is hanging. You can play maybe here queen to c6, but now with bishop to b5, the queen gets trapped and it's already game over here. So even if you try queen to c7 or here bishop to e5 immediately, again the same thing will happen. You cannot again take out the pawn. Again you get rook to e7 with bishop to b5. So whatever you do, you cannot take the c7 pawn. Great tactical trap here by Levon Aronian. So after the move knight to e5, here Alireza Firouzja tried queen to h3, tried again to stay with the queens on the board, but now knight to f3 here by Alireza. We have g takes f3, the queen is hanging, but also we should notice that also the knight is hanging on e2. In the continuation we have queen to g5, here king to h1, and now queen to d5, which was I think a mistake here by Levon Aronian. Here the best move is actually the move f6, and even if white plays now the move rook to g1, there is now a great tactical line. We should simply proceed here with bishop to a6. We can counterattack, and even if you try rook takes g5, then bishop to h3 could happen, and I think again white is simply tactically lost here. So you have to retreat, the knight is hanging, so even if you try something like, I don't know, rook to g3, we can take out this one, you can take out this one, but now the knight is much better. We can try to maybe cement it here on f5. The pawn structure is, as I said, messed up. These are clear targets now in the continuation of the game. Also these are weak pawns, so white is strategically lost here. So in the continuation of the game, after move king to h1, here Levon Aronian took the pawn on d5. Now Alireza is playing his sharp idea. He's trying now the attack here around the square g7. You look at this bishop. This bishop is very dangerous. So far you don't have time to take out the knight on e2. In the continuation here, f6 was played by Levon Aronian, and now knight to f4, which wasn't really the best of moves. Now rook to g7 was now a great opportunity here for Alireza Firouzja. It seems like nothing is going on here, but actually this would be a monster move which Alireza unfortunately missed, because if you try now king to g7, then rook to g1, you have to play now king to h8, and now knight to f4 would happen. You have to retreat maybe here to f7, but now knight to g6 is, I think, simply winning the game. We can try now check. Now checking with knight to e5, we can simply grab the queen. You have to cover with the queen with queen to g7, rook to g7, king to g7, but now queen to g3, and now queen to f4 is, I think, simply winning the game. You will in one particular moment, I think, lose simply the battle around the square f6. Now maybe knight to d7 with bishop to f6 could happen, and again I think that black is simply tactically lost here. So really wild stuff. So the problems began when here Levon Aronian took the pawn on d5. As we said, a simple f6 solves simply the position problems, solves simply here the problems on the long diagonal. So Levon Aronian should have played the move. Unfortunately, he took here, as we said, queen to d5, rook to g1, now f6. But Alireza is now not playing the best move. He's playing knight to f4. As we said, rook to g7 was simply winning, I think, here for white. After move knight to f4, queen to f5, again trying to trade off the pieces. We have queen to h6. Look at this setup here by Alireza. He's continuing his pressure around the square g7. In the continuation, we have rook to f7, now rook to g3. Here Alireza is trying, of course, to double up the pawn structure, double up the rooks here, and continue to pressure against the pawn structure here around the square g7. Queen to c2, here played by Levon Aronian. Now we have knight to h5, continuing the pressure here around the square g7. We have knight to f5. Great defensive move by Levon Aronian, comes also with the fork against the queen and the rook, but also is protecting here the weak square g7. So in the continuation, knight to f6, we have rook to f6, we have rook to g7, but it comes a little bit too late, because after knight to g7 we have now queen to f6 by Alireza Firouzja. But now Levon Aronian has, of course, the opportunity to counterattack to defend this position, but also now there are also still some threats of bishop to b7, maybe bishop to f3 to deliver also checkmate here on g2. So in the continuation of the game, we have rook to g1, and now a great move here by Levon Aronian, queen takes g1. In this position, Alireza Firouzja resigned. So let's see, queen to g1. Now we can play rook to e1. You have to play king to g2, but now comes, of course, here this one, bishop to f1. You have to play king to g3, and now you get the fork with knight to f5. The queen is trapped, so that's why in this position, after the move queen takes g1, in this position Alireza Firouzja resigned. So great tactical game by both players. Really sharp line of the Vienna game, but you see how things can go wrong. If you take one pawn, then you get stretched all over the board, then you get counterattacks. Unfortunately for Alireza, he missed his tactic with an immediate rook takes g7, but it was a rapid game. Of course, it's very hard to see these tactics. I'm analyzing, of course, this game with the Stockfish engine, but this is really brilliant chess what these two guys did. Great game for us to watch, and that's why I decided to show you. This is really, I think, so far one of the best games of the tournament. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. Really wild stuff of the Vienna game. If you want to see also some other games that we have analyzed before, check out my previous analyzed gameplay by Magnus Carlton. Here's also the link. And if you want to see maybe the best chess games of all times, check out my best chess games of all time series with some great games from the past. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.